everyone, Paul here, and in this video I want to talk about, well, actually, hold that thought. It looks like, it looks like I actually just made an extra $50 in my stock portfolio. Let me just refresh this. Oh, now I'm down $25. Let me refresh it again. Oh, I'm actually up 100 now. And I'm just kidding, the market's closed. But look, the point is, I would literally check my portfolio in that manner way too much than I would like to admit. And I feel like it was really holding me back in a lot of ways. And I feel like we as humans, we kind of feel like we need to be taking action in order to kind of really be, making a situation better. But I think that, checking in with your stocks too frequently is actually something that does more harm than good. Okay, and so when I talk about doing more harm than good, I think by checking my stocks too much, I put myself in a situation where, I would kind of read too much into bad news. Maybe I read too much into a stock on a red day, and maybe I get out earlier than what I was really planning to. And then, of course, just to watch the stock maybe come back higher. Because, again, timing the market is something that is a very, very hard thing to do. And many people cannot do it, including, by the way, the billionaire Warren Buffett, who openly says, I cannot time the market, I want to buy quality companies and hold them for the long run. I think if he can do it, I don't like my chances of being able to do it either. And my track record says I'm actually not that great at it because I've tried it. And even for stocks on green days, by the way, so when you talk about when stocks are up, I feel like it works against me in some cases because I might see, stocks up by 5%, and I might be telling myself, hey, maybe this is a good opportunity to take some off the table. Maybe I can cash in now. There's that temptation there to kind of deviate from what my actual plan was. So I really think I was checking my stocks way too often. I was getting way too excited about when 9:30 Eastern would roll around so I could actually see where my stock portfolio was going to open at. And again, I think it was actually doing way more harm than good. And ultimately, I was actually spending a lot of time doing it, which you have to factor in the opportunity cost of continuously checking into your stock portfolio. And this is particularly important if your stock portfolio is relatively small, because let's say that you're spending an extra 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week, whatever that is. And I think, if you start to think that maybe spending 5 or 10 hours a week checking your stocks, I think that if you are a bit obsessively checking into it, you're probably spending more time doing it than what you actually think that you are. I think that was something that certainly happened in my case. But when you factor into, hey, if those 5 or 10 hours could be applied, let's say, to a side hustle instead, maybe a freelance writing, maybe a blog. I mean, there's different ways to make money online. But you start to think, okay, if that time and energy was channeled into something else, you'd be able to make another source of income, which might more than offset any kind of potential benefit you'd be able to provide from continuously checking in on your stocks. So with that in mind, I just wanted to talk about the fact that this was something that I used to do way too much. This is something that I'm getting over. I wanted to talk about 3 strategies that I'm using to help me, check my stocks less, which is ultimately going to set me up for more success in the long run. So the first thing is, I think you have to figure out a set time for when you actually want to check in with your stock portfolio. Now, if it's something where, again, you're checking your stocks multiple times a day, which again, I don't think is all that common out there, certainly not if you're seeking out this video either. But if you're checking your stocks multiple times a day, maybe you start out saying that, you want to check in once a week, like literally once a week, to decide that if you want to, buy more. If you're, I think one of the better ways to invest is to say that you're putting aside a certain amount every paycheck. So if you're paid weekly and you want to say, hey, I want to put $100 to work in the stock market every single week, maybe that's a good opportunity for you to say once a week, I'm going to take a look at what else to buy, if I want to sell anything, doing that with a set time frame. Me, I'm actually doing this once a month. So I'm trying to take a big step back. And I want to do this 12 times a year, again, to just give myself an opportunity, to just kind of, take a little bit of the emotion out of it, not get so concerned about the day-to-day. So for me, I'm going to try that time frame, and if there's any update to that, or if there's any tweaks to that, I'll be sure to let you guys know. I want to keep you guys involved in my process and my learning, so certainly we'll share that with you. And if that's something that's interesting to you, by the way, and you would get value out of that, you want to see how I'm evolving my process over time, it would really help me out if you could subscribe to this channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if that's something that's going to benefit you. Let's talk about the second thing. So for me, I have really kind of set myself up for 2021 where I have a New Year's resolution in mind where I want to buy a stock, or anything I'm going to buy in 2021 is something that I'm going to hold for the entire year. So for me, if I'm going to buy with a minimum threshold of 1 year and literally hold myself to it no matter what happens to the stock market, what happens to the stock, I think that's something that's going to really make me think if I want to be putting as much money into the stock market as what I am, if I believe in the company as much as what I do. So if I'm going to be buying something because I think that there's going to be some short-term news story that's going to be, a positive catalyst for the stock, but I'm not excited about it for the long run. Well, if I'm forcing myself to hold it for a year, I'm going to avoid that situation. And I'm going to say, no, I want to buy something at $30. Maybe it's paying a good dividend, maybe, whatever that might be. But if my valuation says that I think a company's worth like $50 a share and they're currently at $30, that's an opportunity where I want to buy, okay? So focusing on those opportunities, giving myself time for the stock to actually hit the price target and perform well. So number 3 is just simply deleting my broker's app on my phone. So I use Charles Schwab. I love that platform. It's worked out really well for me. But again, having that on my phone, that gave me an opportunity to be checking that all the time. So I've really committed to saying that I'm going to delete the app. And so when I'm actually going to be checking in once a month, I'm either going to be doing it on my laptop computer, or I'm going to just re-download that app 12 times a year, which I don't think is that crazy. But if I literally need to download it for when I do check in on my portfolio, make any changes I want to make, and then just delete that app again, I feel like to me it's just there's less temptation when I'm scrolling through the apps on my phone. If I don't see that little icon, I'm that much less likely to fall into that trap. So these are the strategies I'm using to check in with my stocks. Less, I'm really hopeful that this is actually going to be something that's going to be better for me in the long run. Again, I will let you guys know how this works out, what the benefits are, but certainly I think there's kind of more peace of mind, there's less anxiety. I think that you're more likely to think about investing in stocks that you actually truly want to hold for the long run, and you're not just kind of hoping is going to be a shorter term trade, which is not my style. And again, nothing to say, I'm not judging anybody who has a shorter term style, but for me, I really want to place an emphasis on longer term investing, because as Warren Buffett's right-hand man likes to say, Charlie Munger, that the big money in the stock market is from waiting and holding stock, not in the buying and selling stock. So getting caught up in saying that you might be able to squeeze out an extra % or 2 here or there is not as meaningful as being able to say that you're able to have huge returns over the decades. So I'd love to know what you guys think about this, if this is something you're struggling with, if you have a different strategy that you're going to try to use to check your stocks less. Would love to know in the comments below, and I'll see you next video.